What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Neeks Sports. It's myself, Neeks, obviously here again, and I'm here once again with Yannicka. This is episode I don't know what of Shots Fired. It's been a while since we did Shots Fired. Obviously, you ran off to Manchester because you need to be with your people.
Yep.
Since you weren't going to win the Premier League title, so you needed somewhere to be close to family and mourning. And I understand what happens. I've been in mourning myself, at the prospect of what's happening in the Premier League. But no, I think obviously it's difficult times for everyone in football, outside of football, etc., etc. But yeah, how have you been? It's been a while.
Been fine. Not actually missing football as much as I thought that I would, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I used to think I could never live without football and stuff, but right now I have no wish for it to come back anytime soon. So it's crazy.
Why don't you have any wish? Is it because it's not the priority or what?
Yeah, it's just in this sort of situation, the last thing you think about is football. You know what I mean? And I think if it's going to be without the fans and they're going to change the rules and whatever, it's not the same anyway. So I'd rather wait.
We'll get on to that, 'cause I think, I guess it's about what is priority. And the same with me. Obviously, I miss football, but I guess when it first cancelled, it's like, oh my goodness, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And whether it's good or bad, it's like it's been a few months now, and so life has to adjust, and you have to adjust with it, innit? So you kind of accept, well, there's not going to be football. Things are more important. There's no point moaning about this, moaning about that, like some people are doing, I feel. And I'm like, okay, but that's not the most important thing. Football right now is actually the least of anyone's worries, or it should be. But talking about football, obviously, we've heard, I think it was today, it could be yesterday actually, but we've heard anyway that, no, it was today, the Bundesliga is due to start back very, very soon. So they've got a date in place. It actually beats me I want to say the 13th, but
I think it's the 15th.
The 15th, okay.
Yeah.
Which is obviously very, very soon. That's next week.
Yeah.
Then I guess there's been some countries like Netherlands where they were proposing that they're going to cancel the league. The news actually came out that they cancelled the league and it's actually been voided. But then I think they held back on it. I think. Yeah. Belgium, I could be wrong though, but Belgium, they were supposed to cancel their league as well. And the Scottish Football League, so Division 1 down, they've cancelled and voided as well. In terms of the Premier League, what do you think needs to happen at this stage, if anything?
The issue is, when we first spoke about the whole void in the season, there was a few options on the table at the time, and it was void in the season, cancelling the season but giving Liverpool the title, and there was the wait till it can be played safely and then restart. So obviously I have no problem with Liverpool having the league, considering it is pretty much already won. However, I just think you can't do that unless you're going to relegate. So you can't just say, okay, they won it, and then leave everyone else the same, because it doesn't make much sense. You know, you'd have to play it out. My issue with them playing it out is that, one, everyone's had such a break. So what would have happened is not necessarily what's going to happen. Do you know what I mean? And everyone says, oh yeah, you know, you say that now because you're a City fan or whatever. But say, for example, we go back, Liverpool play their first game, Van Dijk gets injured because he's not match fit. You know, he might be fit, but he's not match fit, right? Say he gets injured, right? And then they lose that game. And then they play the next game and Mane gets injured because he's not fit. Do you know what I mean? And then they lose that game. And then that's not how the season would have gone if we'd have continued what we did. That wouldn't have happened. They would have been fully fit. They would have gone into the games fit, and 9 out of 10 chance they would have won. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's going to go exactly how it would have gone. Secondly, play behind closed doors. You lose your advantage, your home advantage.
Well, I think obviously those are one of the those are part of the suggestions. So are you saying that if they are to return, it can only be done behind closed doors?
Well, I don't know whether that's fair because, say for example, Villa, okay, they rely a lot on their fans, and I'm not saying that's what makes them win, but at home, you know, they have their fans behind them, and it will help. Yeah. So in things like a relegation battle, which they're in at the moment, if they go back into that season with their fans behind them, they probably would stay up. I would say. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying 100% they would, but I think, you know, their fans might keep them up at that stage. You know what I mean? Whereas now they would lose all that advantage. Mm. Plus, the way they're talking about it now, it might not even be played behind closed doors at Villa. It might be played, or it might. I think Villa might be one of the grounds that they're going to use. Oh, yeah. But yeah, it's not, you know, Liverpool, by the looks of it, are not going to play at Anfield again this season. So even their pitch where they have their kind of like home stability where they can win games or they've got a good record there or whatever, with or without fans, they're going to lose that. So they have to play all their games.
But my thing is, it's like, of course, yeah, I think if the season restarts now,
yeah,
nothing. It's not going to go how it should have gone. Everything's changed.
Yeah,
fitness, etc. There's a lot of different. Like, for example, we were supposed to play Spurs, and it pissed me off. But we were supposed to play Spurs just before the thing, the Premier League cancelled, and Spurs had all these injuries. They come off like a bad run of form. Just got knocked out of the Champions League. We were going good, and I was like, this is a difficult game. I can't remember our whole running, but this is one of our few difficult games in the running. We can get a big 3 points here. Now, we come back. Kane's going to be back.
Yeah.
Who else? They had a couple injuries, and I think their whole front line. Son was out. Was Son out? Yeah. No. Son might be. Bergwijn was out.
Yeah.
And they had Sissoko. I don't know if he's going to be fit, but there's so many things. It's like injured player. To be fair, for us. Rashford was out, Pogba was out. So all these players are now going to play who would never play in the first place.
Yeah,
so if we are to restart the Premier League this season, then yeah, everything is about out of kilter. But I would argue that for me, it's better to restart it for the integrity of the game with those anomalies, players fit, players not fit, than not to restart it, to cancel it or so when I say cancel, that could be avoided, or it can be cancelling and declaring. So you declare the positions as final.
Yeah.
For me, those two options are the worst.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we play it, if everything comes out and plays it, it's like, well, no one's at fault. No, it's no one's fault that coronavirus came. It's no one's fault that we have to cancel. So you kind of just have to get on with it, and you hope that all the players and all the squads are fully fit. Of course, some people might be ill, etc., etc. And I know it's a specific type of illness, but throughout a season, you hear there's players that miss games because they got a flu, or they got this, or they got that. So I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but if we restart and there's a player here or a player there who's out because they've got COVID, as long as they're alive and well, I think it's part and parcel. It's now going to be part and parcel of life. You're going to hear people catching it 2, 3, 4 years from now, like they do catch the flu, like they do get diarrhea, whatever it may be. I think it's going to be a part of life now. So I think restarting the season is the best option out of that, or avoiding it, or declaring the winners.
Yeah, my only issue is not like, because that's what I'm saying, you can restart it. I don't think it's going to go exactly how it might have gone, because I think, like I say, there's different sort of situations. So certain clubs have got players back that they, will help them to then win that game.
Yeah.
So say, for example, you do play Tottenham now and, Kane scores a hat-trick, you're going to be saying, well, he wasn't fit when we had to play him. So that wouldn't have happened. Do you know what I mean? I think in terms of City, like for us, we're second. We're probably going to finish second. So I think it's just getting the games out of the way for us, really. we do have Laporte back, but
you did?
yeah, but I don't think because he was kind of getting fit towards when we went off, but then obviously he's fit now, but he's not match fit. You know, normally you'd put him in like a reserve game or something.
I'd argue that nobody's match fit.
Yeah,
So,
no one is. Yeah.
Kind of, he's benefiting from it in the sense that now everyone's coming down.
Everyone's at that level. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's where you're going to have issues, because what I don't want to do is restart the season, put Laporte out there, and he gets injured again, and he's out for a year. Do you know what I mean? Or we put Aguero out there, and Aguero gets fit, and it's a long-term injury. You know what I mean? And then it's like, what are we going to do? You know, it's when normally you have pre-season, and you have pre-season for a reason. And it's to get them players in for like 10. They don't play long in pre-season. They play like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. You know, they do little bits and little bits. With the Premier League, I know they're saying they're going to have more subs, but still, it's a serious game. So you're not going to put Aguero on for 20 minutes in case you end up 2-1 down. You know, and you need a goal scorer. You're not going to do that. You're going to try and play Aguero for 90 minutes, and that's dangerous. Do you know what I mean? So we have a big squad. Other teams like Burnley and people like that, they don't have the choice of putting Aguero on and then putting Sterling on. You know, they have, you know, probably one team that's going to win.
11+1.
Yeah, so as a City fan, it's not too bad for us. It's like, even if they do the other option and they bring up Leeds and West Brom or whoever they were going to bring up, and, you know, they don't relegate anyone, we probably got enough players. Even we would struggle, but we have enough players to probably play an extra 4 games next season. You know what I mean? Not every squad has that, you know, so it's kind of a knock-on effect. You know, like you say, if you go back and you just play it how it is, relegate 3 people, you know, crown Liverpool champions, and the top 4 are the top 4, that's not too bad. But I just think at the moment, I don't know how many players are going to want to risk their lives.
Well, that's what I want to ask about. You've mentioned Sergio Aguero, and he came out, and obviously there's a talk about the Premier League restarting, and he basically said the majority of players are scared. He said, I'm scared, but I'm with my girlfriend here, Tina. I'm not going to be in contact with other people. I mean, I'm locked in my house, and the only person that he could infect is his girlfriend. They're saying that there are people that have it and don't have symptoms can still infect you. So he's like, maybe he's got it and he doesn't know. He doesn't know in it.
But he wouldn't know that.
Saying the players are scared. So would you say that at this stage it is too soon to start by the Premier League? If we're, like I said, Germany, they're starting back very, very soon. Is the Premier League nowhere near ready?
I don't think Germany's ready either, to be honest. They said in Germany that they tested 10 players from the top 2 leagues. I know some are from SC Köln. And they're actually coronavirus positive.
Okay.
And they're going to go and play the season. I just think it's a bit, like, it's fine to, you know, on paper, like you say, people get sick from the flu, people get sick from other things from time to time, and they go off and they come back and they're fine, and that's all right. But there's not everyone is in the same situation. Like Aguero has his girlfriend, she's quite young, she's probably quite healthy. Do you know what I mean? She's probably fine. So even if Aguero had it and he gave it to her, chances are they'll both be ill for a week or 2. And then they'll be fine.
If there's a player who's got a cougar, she's about 60, 70 years old.
Well, not even that. If they live with their mother, you know. Gabriel at City, he spends a lot of time with his mum. His mum's not old. She's not really old, but she's not young. Do you know what I mean? So if he infects his mum, who knows whether she would just have it for a week or whether she'd become really ill. De Bruyne's girlfriend is pregnant, so he's not going to want to risk his newborn baby. The thing is with COVID is we don't know enough about it yet to know what the long-term effects are. They're saying it affects your lungs, and that my cousin had it and he went into hospital. He was really ill. He thought he was going to die because he had underlying health conditions. So he thought, I'm going to die. Wrote a will. Everything, thought he was, going to die, and he recovered from it. Came out of hospital. He was all right for a few weeks, and then he got really bad pains in his lungs, and he had to go back in. So footballers that have got it now, they're physically fit, so they can probably fight it off. But you don't know what long-term damage that's going to have, and there's rumours that it affects your lungs. So these footballers that get it now might be all right, but then in 5 years' time, who knows? They might not be able to run anymore because their lungs are damaged. Do you know what I mean? So
the point that you made, I think it's important. What you said, we don't know enough about it, and that's what I get annoyed by the discussion about when is it going to return? When is it going to return? Because I'm like, yes, I guess you're in a certain position of power, so you need to make decisions, but if you don't know enough about it, there's only so many decisions you can make other than saying, all right, we have to postpone it for another month, postpone it for another. Because me personally, I'm like, especially for the Premier League, because the money isn't as big an issue in the Premier League as the lower leagues. So they could go a few months without, just by postponing it. But if you just said, all right, we'll postpone it for this long, postpone it for that long, which you've done, and it's you're playing a waiting game, basically. So then if we reach November, you might say, you know what, it's too late now. Let's say we reach November and we're ready to go back now. Okay, football's ready to restart. The question you have to ask in November is, should we restart last season or should we
or start a new one?
Having the discussion now when we're not ready to go back, for me, is pointless, because you don't know how we're going to be in a month from now, in 2 months. So I'm like, what's the rush? I know the only rush aspect might be is the fact that if you've got players who are out of contract, and obviously legally, as of June the 31st or July the 31st, they don't have to play for that club because their contract's not there. They would have to go through FIFA to extend and talk to the players. But legally, they don't have to play at all. That's all it is. But other than that, the contract issues, and I know lower down the leagues, that's a big issue because they have loans that are scheduled to end on a certain date. But if we don't know when we're going to restart, why are we pushing to restart? Because you're going to restart, someone's going to catch you. Then you have to lock down again.
And then it's going to be,
Remember when we cancelled the Premier League? It was only because Arteta, I think it was.
Caught it,
And they had, obviously, then the squad had to quarantine and that's what's going to happen if we come back too soon. Someone's going to get it, and we'll be like, all right, lockdown. And I think whatever decision we make in terms of the Premier League has to be based on government. Because the only reason why Germany's going back now is because Angela Merkel, obviously the president or prime minister of Germany, whatever, I don't know what their ranking is. She has said, it's they can have their events, but behind closed doors. The Dutch league cancelled because the Dutch government said that no events, sporting events or otherwise, before September. So they basically said, all right, it is what it is, done. Same thing with France. France declared their winners. They declared PSG as the champions and relegated. Did they relegate? No, they didn't relegate.
They did, because apparently...
No, they didn't. They didn't relegate.
You're right.
Sorry, you're right. They did. You're right.
One of the teams was complaining that they wouldn't have got relegated. I saw that the other day.
But the Dutch voided it, and there's no relegation.
There's no relegation,
Division 2, there was one team who was like 11 points clear at the top of the league. They're like, we're going to get promoted. And then you got France, who have cancelled the season but declared the champion with relegation and Champions League. But even there, they're like, I think there's a team, I think it might be Lille. They're like 1 point off Champions League. It's just been declared like that. So, but those decisions were made based on the government directive. So I guess we have to kind of see what our government says.
Well, our government, from what I've seen, I don't know how true it is, because my sister's planning to get married. And
I saw someone got married on Zoom, I saw that.
So from what I've seen, I don't know if it's going to happen, but it looks like they're going to sort of, the August, mid-August,
Okay.
they're going to allow events to go ahead. Like, I think like football to go ahead. But I think it will be behind closed doors still.
It has to be.
You know, so I don't know. I don't think
football. If they restart football, open doors, I'm going Notting Hill Carnival in it, and I don't care. It's happening because you can't have.
It won't be open doors. I don't think.
It can't be. There's no way it can be.
No, there's no way. But you know what it is? This is the thing. They can't be telling people one thing, you know, it's dangerous. You need to stay in. You need to stay in, and then say, "Oh, we're going to bring the Premier League back," because, like you say, to hold a match without fans, they still need a lot of people. So they're telling you, you can't, even when they're going to lift the restrictions. It sounds like they're going to say things like, "You and 4 friends can socialize," right? So how can they tell you that you and 4 friends can socialize, or you and 3 other people can socialize, but 22 people can go onto one football pitch with a referee, 2 linesmen, plus the cameramen, a bench full of players? They can't do that because it's contradictory. Because you'd say, well, I'm just putting myself at risk with my 23 friends, you know, going out for a barbecue in the park. Do you know what I mean? It's the same thing. So I think the government...
Yeah, but you know, the thing is, I think, because I was talking about it today, like, I've accepted, and I think most people said that, coronavirus is probably here. It's here to stay. Like, it's going to be in the atmosphere. You can't get rid of a disease like that. You can only contain it. You can, you know, immunize from it, so whether it's through vaccination or just natural immunity, and that kind of stuff. It's going to be here forever, as far as I'm concerned, like the flu. Whether it's more dangerous than the flu or not, we'll see as time goes on. The flu kills a lot of people every single year. But
I think the flu's a little bit different in that this is more like a Spanish flu. Them sorts of things that are around.
No, but the reason why I say it is that I think the government thought process is more to do with how many people are contracting it, not whether or not you are going to contract it, or should I say, not whether or not it still exists. And in the sense that, can the NHS deal with the number of people that catch it? Now, of course, that's why they're talking about getting over the peak, etc., etc. The reason why I mentioned the flu, because I said, you know, people catch the flu, they die from the flu, people get hospitalized for pneumonia, etc. But the NHS is able to deal with
the numbers. Well, that's the whole point in the lockdown. The whole purpose of that was to flatten the curve so that the NHS. So if me and you get it, you know, then we can be treated. Whereas at the time when it was at its peak, they didn't have enough ventilators and stuff like that. So people were dying because, you know, there wasn't enough ventilators. Whereas that won't happen.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that I think people are going to continue to get it, and people are going to die like any other disease. But you hope that you, by having the facilities to deal with it and take care of people, you hope that you can keep the mortality rate low.
Go down,
So, but yeah, I guess, because reality is, we're social distancing now. And we may say, oh, we have to social distance for another X amount of months. I don't know. At some point, this can't continue.
Yeah.
We have to see family and friends, and we have to do X, Y, Z. We have to go on holiday. We have to do that. At what stage does that happen? Do we wait for a vaccine? And I don't think you can wait for a vaccine. The reason
I think it's going to be 2 years.
At least something like SARS, which they say reacts similar. Body reacts similar.
Coronavirus,
That was 20 years ago, and there's still no vaccine. You can't. If you wait for a vaccine, you could be in lockdown for the rest of your life, depending on how old you are. So,
that's why they're saying the most vulnerable people will probably still have to be careful.
Yeah, but how can
it's crazy? It's crazy.
You have to, at some point, you got to say, you know what, F it. If I die, I die.
Well, you just got to hope that the NHS will be able to.
Yeah, that's it. You just hope the NHS
to save you if you get it. But I think right now, you know, the country is still trying to work out what they're going to do. So I just think I know they're saying football will lift people's spirits, but I think at the moment most people are more concerned about if their family are going to die.
If a footballer dies from it,
they'll have hell to pay. And what my dad says is like the government will have to explain why they allowed it to go ahead if a footballer dies, because the thing is, it's not even a footballer. Like, imagine a footballer goes home and his mum lives with him and she dies. I don't think that footballer's going to be like, okay, straight back to, you got a game the next. They're going to be pissed off because they're going to think I was forced to go to work and now I've caused my mother's death by me going to work. Do you know what I mean? Like, to us, it's a game and we love it, but to them, it is work. You know what I mean? And a lot of people wouldn't risk their life for work, you know? So as much as we think, yeah, it's a game of football, it's entertainment. Yeah, they're entertaining us, but it's not worth risking their families' lives to entertain people.
As much as it's entertainment, look at all the TV shows that show weekly, Hollyoaks, EastEnders, they've stopped filming. It's entertainment. Like work, and they're not willing to put their employees at risk.
Yeah.
But we expect footballers to put their, and this is why it's not about sympathy for footballers, but I feel they get a hard they get harsh treatment from the public, the media. You know, people always talk about their wages, how much they earn, they should donate this, they should donate that. Like, but no one speaks about the actors. Look how much actors make per movie. No one speaks about it. It's because and I always figure especially if it's men who are criticizing it, you probably thought, listen, I can go down to the park and kick the ball with XYZ. They get paid $200,000 a week to do it. But because you don't think that you can act, you can never put yourself in their shoe. You're not gonna, you might say, that movie was terrible, but you don't think I could have done a better job than that producer. You don't think like that. But because these footballers come from our backgrounds, like we got
regular
people, you feel that they must, you and them are on the same level kind of thing. Or in even the same class in terms of society. They're just one of you and me. And like, no, listen, you have to put them. Their skill is worth how much they're being paid. Whether we accept it or not, the fans are paying the money to go see them, and the clubs are paying them the amount of money for their services, isn't it? So I think
I'd argue that it's even worse than that, because a footballer's career is, let's be honest, you don't really get big money till you're about 20.
Yeah,
older. You know what I mean?
I remember even then, Yannicka,
it doesn't last that long.
Even then, Yannicka, it's only in the top tier.
Yeah. Only in the big clubs as well. You know what I mean? And so, say for example, you're one of the better players, right? You probably get paid a big salary from when you're 20, and then when you get towards 30, it starts going down a bit. You start taking less, unless you go to China and get some big payoff. But even then, the longest football career is probably goalkeepers, and they play till they're like 40. Do you know what I mean? Most footballers retire at 32, 33, 34. Do you know what I mean? So if you think of it like that, it's not actually that much money. And like you say, actors, you can be an actor from when you're born till you
die.
So there's people like Megan Good. She was like a child star, and then she I don't really know what she's doing now, but she could do movies for the rest of her life. You know what I mean? She's going to make a lot more money. Yeah, she was a child actor. That's what I mean. So really, these actors, like you say, they don't get a lot of stick. But people like Leonardo DiCaprio's career is a lot longer than De Bruyne's will be. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think they do get a bit of unfair. And it is, like you say, it's because they're working class, generally, working class people. And a lot of people will be like, because they've come from that background, they should give back. But I don't agree with that. I think if you've got money and you can help, you should give back regardless.
No one speaks about boxers. Nobody speaks about. I ain't had no one shouting Anthony Joshua to donate X, Y, Z. No one speaks about Formula One drivers, unless Lewis Hamilton comes out and says that boys shouldn't wear skirts or something like that. Nobody speaks about those sport. Those sport like Formula One is big money.
Oh yeah,
big money. NFL. I'm like, obviously I know these American sports, NFL, NBA. But I wonder,
Their money is ridiculous.
is there the same call that
Mm.
in those sports, in those areas that like our footballers over here are getting? I don't know. But yeah, like in this period, I've been defending footballers. I don't usually defend football like that, but I feel that some of them are definitely being.
I think there's a lot of footballers that do give a lot, like Mane gives a lot, Salah gives a lot. You know, I mean, there's so many players that will give so much money, and it's like, why should they have to give everything away when they have a short-term career? And they do have, when you're a footballer, you do have a lifestyle that you have to uphold as well. You can't be a Chelsea player living in a one-bed flat in a rough part of London and not going out and having a crap car. You can't really do that.
We know what happens when you do kind of shop cheap. Your name is plastered all over the Daily Mail.
Waited for it, yeah.
Sterling shops in Primark after winning.
Yeah. You have to live up to that life. Yeah, you do. You have to spend a lot of money. So even though they make a lot of money, they also spend a lot of money, if you know what I mean. And obviously they do have to give money away to charity and stuff. It's just some players are more forthcoming with that, and others keep it on the down low, like you don't even know, you know. So I don't know. I just think they're the scapegoats in this country. Like you always hear people say, "Oh, you know, doctors should get paid more than footballers," and I just think, well, no, they shouldn't. Doctors should get paid more than they get paid, but no, they shouldn't be on £250,000 a week. They shouldn't. I mean, that's ridiculous, you know. So. And the only reason why footballers get what they get is because there's fans. If there was no fans and there was no sponsorship, they wouldn't get that money, you know. So it's us really that allow them to get what they get. And I don't mind, you know. Aguero's provided me with enough entertainment in my life to give back to him. So, you know, I don't mind.